Terence Crawford wins the WBO welterweight title after beating Amir Khan by technical knockout in the 6th round at New York. Terence Crawford retained his title by a technical knockout. The American is the ring's number 2 ranked pound-for-pound boxer. This was Khan's first world title fight since a KO loss to Canelo Alvarez in 2016. Boxing analyst Sham is with us from United Kingdom. We'll take you and connect you with Sham Ayub, a boxing analyst and the owner of Be Real Boxing. We're giving you this live update where Amir Khan, the British Pakistani boxer, has lost to Terence Crawford as he got beaten in the 6th round by a technical knockout. They said it was a low blow, but Amir Khan was already down on the point. Terence Crawford has been unbeaten in the ring and has a career that shows his extreme skills and power in the ring. You're right in front of your TV screens. You can see the highlights of the match from New York's Madison Square Garden. Terence Crawford wins the WBO welterweight title. We've been joined by Sham Ayub, a boxing analyst and owner of Be Real Boxing TV. Sham, welcome to PTV World. What do you make of the fight?
Thanks for having me. I thought, as always, with Amir Khan, I thought it was a very entertaining fight. I thought that, first of all, from the opening bell, I think, first of all, I've been in contact with Amir quite regularly prior to this fight, so I had a good understanding kind of on the things that he's working on. And basically, I think that he made some improvements in this fight. I think he really did make a lot of improvements in the fight. But I think from the opening bell, the gaps that Amir Khan has, I think that they showed. And I think Terence Crawford, being a pound-for-pound great fighter with very good technical skills, I think he was able to adapt and able to capitalize on a few fundamental mistakes that Amir was still making.
Amir's knee buckled in the very first round. What happened there?
I think, firstly, when I've been speaking to Amir recently, I think a flaw that I think a lot of people identified, and something that I definitely picked up a long time ago, was the overhand right. So when Amir Khan throws a jab, what tends to happen is people tend to counter-punch him, because what he's been doing is holding his left hand a little bit low. And I think that it was an error that he's been making for quite a while now. And in this camp, what he's been working on is putting the left hand back up, and it's something that has been stressed to him quite heavily by Virgil Hunter. I myself spoke to Amir about this flaw that he's got, and he's been working quite heavily to correct it. We saw from the opening bell, obviously with a lot of nerves coming into such a big fight, it's quite difficult to be able to correct something straight away. I think as he warmed into the fight, we saw that he adjusted and he was able to put his hand back up, and I think he adjusted quite well, and he got back into his style, back into his rhythm, and I think he was doing quite well, to be honest, in the fight. I think that after the first round, I think he started getting into the fight, but then in the mid tier of the fight, I think Terence Crawford really started to pick it up. I think as he turned southpaw, there was a clear size difference between the two, which was quite surprising to me. Amir Khan, sometimes he comes in light, sometimes he comes in heavy at 147. I was an advocate for him coming in a bit heavier in this fight. I think he came in a little bit too light on fight night. I think he should have hydrated a bit more. I think he could have come up a little bit heavier. I think Crawford shocked a lot of people with his size. He had the skill, and I think Amir Khan was unable to really put any sort of damaging punches together to be able to keep Terence Crawford off him. And in boxing, it's very, very to be able to hurt your opponent, to really get their attention. And without being able to do that, your opponent will walk through what you're giving them. And I think that was a fundamental kind of mishap from the Khan camp. I think he should have come in a little bit heavier and had a bit more snap to his punches. And I also think this as well. I'm going on a little bit, but I also think this as well. I think Amir, I don't think it's so much his age. I think that his feet, he could have been a little bit more bouncier on his feet, used his footwork a little bit more. I found him to be very flat-footed. I think this is something Virgil has instilled in him. it works for some fighters. I personally feel you need to use all your assets, and Amir has excellent footwork, excellent.
At the Sham, I'd have to stop you right here. I mean, throughout the pre-match press conferences, we've seen Amir Khan saying that he's the bigger fighter, and then we talked about he losing his prime, and I mean, the age is not a factor over here since he's just 1 year apart from Terence Crawford. Do you think Amir was the bigger guy? I mean, 146.4, that was the weight, and 146.2 probably was Terence Crawford on the day in the weigh-in?
Yeah. Okay, so firstly, on the weigh-in, they both weighed in the joggy bottoms, okay? So they weren't actually 146 pounds, they were actually both lighter. Terence Crawford has always hydrated to a much higher weight. He will probably been in the high 150s in this fight. He looked a lot bigger, he looked a lot more filled out. So from the weigh-in until the fight, fighters do tend to hydrate and hydrate up. I knew that Amir was coming in light for this fight. He told me so that they're going to be coming in a little bit light for this fight. And so that all really falls down to hydration, what you're eating post-fight, how much weight you're going to gain from the weigh-in up until fight night, up until the fight. With regards to age, let me just say this, okay? Amir Khan has been a pioneer, I think, of British boxing. He in the ring, he has never quit. He fights the best. He does what everybody wants him to do. And I think he's really been an excellent pioneer of British boxing. He's from Pakistani descent as well, and I think that he's really represented Pakistan very well throughout his entire career. And I think that at the age of 31, yeah, there's only a year's difference between them, but in boxing terms, you don't count the years of how old someone is. You count how many tough fights they've been in. And Terence Crawford is still a fresh fighter. He's young in his prime. Amir Khan has had some wars in that ring, and I think the Amir Khan...
At the Sham, what would you say? What's next for Amir Khan? Is his career over? Is he done with, or he still has it in him?
I think he needs to sit down with his trainer, with his team. I'm going to have a chat with Amir myself personally as well, and I think he needs to really assess what he wants to do moving forward. There's obviously the Kell Brook fight that could still be made, whether that's an option he wants to take, whether he wants to go into another big fight if he can get one in the US, and what weight it's going to be at, because I still feel that Amir could still make 140 pounds, maybe potentially moving down.
Thank you, Sham. That was Sham Ayub, a boxing analyst from UK. He's a blogger as well. We're going to take you right away to Lahore, where Inzamam ul Haq is having a presser. Let's have a look.
अभी भी 5 और 6 वीक के दरमियान है